They kidnap, they extort, they rape, and they rob. They prey on children. They shouldn't be here. They stomp on their victims. They beat them with clubs. They slash them.
Welcome to the channel. Today we expose the disinformation being peddled by the Trump administration and explain why and how America has adopted a hate-fueled far-right immigration policy.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
How many violent criminals have been deported?
This year, only about 7% of detained persons have been convicted of violent crimes. In total, only about 30% of the people arrested have any criminal convictions, and of the arrested with no convictions, about a third of them have pending charges. But they are innocent until proven guilty. So says their natural rights. Add it all up, and half of the immigrants who have been arrested and put on the path to deportation have only committed the crime of being in the country illegally. In short, they aren't just going after the worst of the worst, they're arresting anyone they can get their hands on.
Only 7%. That's pathetic.
You're correct, and the reason why is because the campaign mantra, they're emptying their prisons and mental institutions into our country, is bullshit. In fact, a campaign lie that we covered on this channel about the number of murderers and sexual offenders at large has come back to bite Trump in the ass.
She let in 13,099 convicted murderers.
Last year, a report from ICE was obtained by Congress that detailed the number of known criminal immigrants in the country who were not in ICE custody. Trump used these numbers, especially the 13,000 murderers and 16,000 sex offenders, as a weapon against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, claiming that these were criminals that were let in during Biden's term. But in truth, these numbers have been compiling for 40 years, including during Trump's first term, and many of the people on the list are not in ICE custody because they are in the custody of federal, state, or local law enforcement, have left the country on their own, or are dead. So now the Trump administration is being held to these bullshit numbers that they helped spread around. And we get to sit back and laugh about reports like this one from NBC that wants to know why ICE has only arrested 750 of the 13,000 murderers running loose in the country. What the fuck's up with that, Donald?
They're chasing ghosts. What is the immigrant effect?
The immigrant effect is what criminologists call the decrease in violent crime rates in communities as the number of immigrants increases. And this is because immigrants don't commit as many crimes as native-born citizens. This is true for undocumented immigrants as well. Violent crime rates in large populations of undocumented immigrants huddled around large cities like San Diego, San Antonio, and Miami are low, meaning what the administration wants you to believe is the opposite of true.
Why do they lie about who they're targeting?
It's because they want to deport all the undocumented immigrants for mostly racist and bigoted reasons, and that doesn't align with the will of the American people. So they have to sell it like most of them are violent criminals and gangbangers, even though the percent of immigrants who fit that description is a single-digit number.
Overwhelmingly, day after day after day, on bringing in the worst of the worst and getting them off of our streets. Those are the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles.
Listen to how hard White House advisor on immigration, Stephen Miller, who we will talk more about later, sells the idea of 20 million violent criminals. And also see if you can spot the irony in this clip.
And we can't take the risk of letting these Biden illegals roam around freely so that the next American daughter can get raped, the next American kid can get murdered, the next American family can get splintered and torn apart by people that came into this country unchecked, uncontrolled, unvetted, uninvited by the American people.
Man, that guy hates brown skins. And did you notice while he's talking about removing rapists and murderers, they're rolling a video of the ICE SWAT team arresting a woman in her pajamas? Hilarious. Next, we're going to get into some polling data about how the majority of Americans truly feel about immigrants. But first, I would like to say thank you for all your support. A little really does go a long ways. So please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you're feeling generous, follow the Patreon link in the description and become a globalist for life. Thank you.
The will of the people.
According to recent polling data, 78% of Americans believe immigrants living in the U.S. illegally should have the chance to become citizens if they meet certain criteria. And that's backed up by Pew Research data that says most Americans believe undocumented immigrants should not be deported if they've never been convicted of a crime, have been in the country for over 4 years, and meet one of the following criteria: have a job, have a citizen child or a citizen spouse, or were brought to the country illegally when they were a kid. We busted out the Globalist Supercomputer, and we crunched the numbers and found that of the approximately 15 to 20 million undocumented immigrants in the country, over half of them meet the criteria. That's, say, 10 million working class family people who have been here for years that most citizens think should be given amnesty. Buried just beneath all the mugshots and the exploited victims and the videos of gangbangers in shackles, the truth is there for everyone to see. Here's Border Czar Tommy Two Tongues Homan talking about collateral arrests and parents of citizens.
When sanctuary cities force us into the neighborhood to find that bad guy, many times that person is with others that are illegally in the country, but may not be a criminal target. Well, they're going to go too. Look, having a U.S. citizen child doesn't make you immune from our laws. If you cross the border illegally, which is a crime, whether you show up in court or don't show up in court, and you fail to leave as ordered by the court, and you choose to hide out and have a U.S. citizen child, that doesn't make you immune from the law. You put yourself in that position.
Are they profiling to make more arrests?
Yes. Recently, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, got all pissed off at a reporter and used her mom voice on her when she asked about people being targeted based on skin color.
A lot of people have been targeted based on their skin color, not necessarily.
That is not true. And so that has been another false narrative that has been put out there in the media that I absolutely want to throw back at you and say that is absolutely false, and don't you dare ever say that again.
Oh, but it is true. After a recent court order banning ICE agents from establishing reasonable suspicion based on race, ethnicity, speaking Spanish or accented English, location or occupation, the number of arrests in Los Angeles fell 66%. And the number of immigrants from Latino countries without deportation orders, criminal charges, or convictions who were arrested in a week went from 351 to 60. So it's not hard to imagine how ICE was operating before the order. They get the name of someone they want to deport, they find out where they work, and they show up at the job site. While they're there, they talk to the rest of the crew, and anyone with an accent who doesn't have proof of legal residency in their lunchbox gets hauled away.
I was just going to work. It was just a day of work, and everything happened so fast. So yeah, and they didn't identify themselves, so I was kind of scared.
Who is Stephen Miller?
A xenophobe, homophobe, and elitist since high school, Stephen Miller is Donald Trump's Homeland Security Advisor and White House Deputy Chief of Staff, and he is credited as the architect of Trump's immigration policies. In high school, Stephen wrote a letter to his local newspaper in which he whined about his school having a club for gay kids and the announcements being made in both English and Spanish. Then Miller, attempting to get elected as the class speaker, was booed off the stage by his classmates when he expressed the desire to throw his trash on the ground because he thought it was the janitor's job to follow behind him and pick up after him.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it for us.
In college, Stephen became a disciple of anti-Islam activist David Horowitz and a friend of future neo-Nazi leader Richard B. Spencer. Stephen wrote for the Duke University newspaper, where he honed his anti-multiculturalism, white nationalist rhetoric. Shortly after college, Miller began working for Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions. Within 5 years, Miller had risen to the position of communications manager, where he did some real damage. During his time under Sessions, Miller effectively took control of far-right Breitbart News, sending them hundreds of emails with suggestions for stories. Some of the stories he suggested and were subsequently ran came from far-right anti-immigration website VDare and the white supremacist website American Renaissance. Miller also urged Breitbart staff to read the book The Camp of the Saints, a novel depicting the destruction of Western civilization through mass immigration. The Camp of the Saints is a novel that has long been revered by white supremacists in America and is used to further the Great Replacement conspiracy. In 2016, Miller joined Trump's campaign team. During the campaign, Miller's primary role was to write Trump's speeches with the help of alt-right news mogul, head of Breitbart News, and executive officer of Trump's campaign, Steve Bannon. Working together, Miller and Bannon laced Trump's speeches with anti-refugee, anti-immigrant rhetoric and white nationalist dog whistles.
There can be no prosperity without law and order. I am the law and order candidate. I am your voice.
After Trump won in 2016, Miller was named senior advisor to the president. During this term, Miller advocated to end the DACA program and to drastically reduce the number of refugees the United States accepted every year. Miller was also an advocate for President Trump's family separation policy at the border, a policy that separated immigrant children from their immigrant parents. That is, they locked the kids and parents in separate cages miles apart. The purpose of this policy was to exploit the cruelness of the act as a deterrent to other immigrants contemplating crossing the border. And now, in the second Trump administration, Miller is behind Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship. He has dismantled the oversight offices meant to protect the civil rights of immigrants and help them become citizens, and he never misses an opportunity to take to the microphone and mislabel millions of people rapists, murderers, and gang members.
But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered.
Stephen Miller is overtly far-right.
You are correct, and he is Trump's henchman in charge of immigration, and he has been for 10 years.
What about Project 2025?
You mean the far-right playbook that instructs the president on how to centralize power in the executive branch in order to foist a white Christian nationalist agenda on the American people?
Yes.
Here's a list of things prescribed in Project 2025 that have been obediently implemented by the president. Ending birthright citizenship, that was on day one, check. Dismantling DHS watchdog groups. In March, 3 oversight groups that protect the civil rights of immigrants were gutted. Ending refugee and asylum status, check. So far, 60,000 people have lost their temporary protection status, and over 500,000 who were granted humanitarian parole have had their legal status revoked. Limit visas and make them more expensive. Tens of thousands of student visas have been rejected, especially to those who are pro-Palestine, and the cost of visas has gone up across the board. Increase spending. The One Big Beautiful Bill adds $170 billion to DHS for immigration policy and enforcement. Add detention centers. Now we have Alligator Alcatraz and the Cornhusker Clink, Guantanamo Bay. We use CCOT in El Salvador. Use the National Guard for enforcement. So far, the military has been deployed to parts of the southern border, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. Withhold federal funding from cities that do not comply with immigration policy. Check. It took a court order to prevent this.
Is this far-right or is it alt-right?
While far-right and alt-right ideas and desires often overlap, the Trump administration is not fully alt-right for one big reason.
And never forget who's responsible. The Jews.
These people are more accurately labeled far-right because to be alt-right, you have to be anti-Semitic, and, well, Stephen Miller is Jewish. Donald Trump has also taken hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign donations from the pro-Israel Adelsons alone. And, of course, maggots support the genocide in Gaza, which is a tough one for the alt-right because on one hand, yay, they're slaughtering Arabs, but on the other hand, boo, you have to support Israel to do it. In other words, the movement has all the traits of alt-right, white nationalist ideology except for one thing, and that one thing is a deal breaker. That is why most of the radical right have begun to push past Trump's old ass, and they are slingshotting off the momentum of the radical MAGA ideas in hopes of one day installing someone just like Trump, who is also an anti-Semite. They would also like him to be an open racist rather than a closeted racist. In other words, in the future, they would like to install someone like this. This is rich kid, coward, Jesus freak, white nationalist Nick Fuentes, and he personifies the alt-right movement in America. He has a podcast called America First, and he is the leader of a horde of online trolls called Groypers, who use the anonymity of the internet to hook up for gay sex and use slurs with impunity. And even though Nick stopped supporting Donald Trump in 2024 because Donald isn't anti-Semitic, Nick does like the spirit of the administration's stated immigration policy. His only real problem with the immigration policy is that it is not working fast enough. Listen to Nick, who despises Latinos and Latino culture, express his optimism about the mainstream right moving more toward the alt-right.
And we can celebrate and say that the mainstream right has been Groyperfied. The mainstream right now reflects the most radical element of the right from 7 years ago. You could say that the mainstream right has gone full Charlottesville. You could say that the mainstream right might as well be chanting, "Jews will not replace us."
And to go one step deeper into the groper hole, we have the tweets coming from the Department of Homeland Security. There's this one asking which way American Man, and this is definitely some cutesy little Nazi shit about the book Which Way Western Man by William Gailey Simpson, who was a member of the neo-Nazi group National Alliance. Which Way Western Man claims there is a Jewish plot against white people, calls for violence against Jews, and says Hitler was right. And we have this one featuring a painting that represents white people's divine right to evict Native Americans from their homes. It also comes with a caption that is 14 words long and has 2 H's capitalized incorrectly. If you know anything about how Nazis signal each other online, then you know about the 14 words and HH, which is short for Heil Hitler. Not to mention the numerical representative for all the capital letters in this sentence is 1488, which is one of the most popular tattoos among neo-Nazis and the Aryan Brotherhood. Is this trolling and signaling? Of course it is. This is the kind of shit these little groper twats live for. Being naughty on the internet and cashing disability checks is why these guys get up in the morning, and all the white nationalists are eating it up. And all of this is to say that the minority far right has infiltrated, and they have been running a disinformation campaign to maintain approval, and the only thing stopping them from implementing their hateful agenda have been several court orders, cell phone cameras, protests, and low polling numbers. But make no mistake, the far right and the alt-right are on the inside, and it is Donald Trump who leads them and who let them in with appointments like Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Sebastian Gorka, and Kash Patel. If you liked that video, follow the link on the screen for something similar. My name is Greb Kared, your ally in the fight against disinformation.